A nonprofit organization is on a mission to maintain a cleaner, healthier underwater environment. Joining us via Zoom is Mariana Reyes of the Philippine Association of Underwater Activities. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning so much. Yeah.
All right, so Mariana, let's take a look first at what your group does and who are members of this group. Can you tell us a bit more about what started it and, of course, what the functions of the group actually are?
Thank you so much for that question. So, we're the Philippine Association Underwater Activities, and everything and anything that has to do with underwater, such as the diving activities, the issuing of diving licenses, at the same time, it's underwater protection. We all cover that.
Mhm.
So, we're actually a group composed of scuba divers from University of the Philippines, also the Maritime Police Group, and other non-government agencies and NGOs that actually want to learn scuba diving and also want to protect the environment at the same time. We also do a lot of environmental education, and specifically the marine ecosystem to lower education, middle school, also high school. So we're quite involved in a lot of marine education programs and coral restoration programs, and issuing diving licenses for um, for instructors or dive masters.
So what regular activities does your group typically have? You mentioned the education, of course, the trainings as well. In a regular calendar year for you, could you give us an idea of the type of activities we can expect from your group?
Okay, yes, we have a lot of upcoming or past events. So actually, we started out doing the typical normal beach cleanup because we wanted to not only reach the divers but also reach again the younger generation or the younger kids, because not everyone can go underwater. So we have a strategy that we do step by step to educate people. So from there, you have to raise awareness at a young age by doing the beach cleanup. But then we realized that the beach cleanup, it's good for environmental stewardship, but we wanted to take a more scientific approach. So we actually partnered with some DOST projects, and we actually did like what we call a low cost coral restoration protocol.
Mhm.
So we can actually implement coral restoration at a cost effective solution, because if you would know, coral restoration is quite expensive in different countries. You need a remote operated vehicle, or you need to do some reseeding, and that costs quite a lot. But here in the Philippine Association of Underwater Activities, we want to be scientific. At the same time, we want to be cost effective and sensitive to the local community, because not everyone will have the means and resources to do this conservation. And most of the time, sad to say, it's not the priority. But we still want to try our best to make it soundly to science, at the same time geared towards local community.
You know, you mentioned also that you do provide training for divers. Is there anything different with the type of training that you do provide, considering the advocacies that the group holds?
Yes, because we are the representative of the Confederación Mundial Subaquatique, so that's World Underwater Federation in English. So people who take licenses in CMAS or World Underwater Federation are geared towards more non-touristy diving, so we could think of more scientific or more military style. That's why it generally takes longer to acquire a license from us. If you go to other countries, typically the people who have this CMAS license are from military or scientists. Like in Germany, they have scientists that have CMAS license, and France or in Israel, you have the military having CMAS licenses.
Mhm.
So our training is geared towards more for organizations who really want to do this kind of scientific diving. So, for instance, we right now we have our president is teaching also in University of the Philippines. So you could see this is more for education type. We're tied up with universities. And so that's what makes us different, is that we can offer the scientific trainings and licenses along with what that organization needs. We also have tie up with the Philippine National Police Maritime Group. So they get a CMAS license from us and they acquire training skills. So I would say if you were taking diving as a career towards scientific or towards something like Maritime Police Group, CMAS or Philippine Association Underwater Activities, CMAS licenses are more appropriate for that.
And of course, you look at your work obviously does involve a lot of marine preservation. You've seen it all, I'm sure. How would you assess the efforts that the country is having, and of course the efforts of other non-government organizations with regard to the preservation of marine life here in the Philippines?
I would say that currently, I think it's also because of the generational aspect. Now that there are more younger people in the Philippines, they actually care more about the environment. So I personally want to be hopeful for all the marine restoration efforts or conservation efforts happening in the Philippines by government and non-government organizations. But I also want to point out and urge corporations and private sectors to also step up. When I mean step up, they could help these government projects and non-government projects with supplying funding or training for their higher officials or higher ups so that we can actually do real environmental social governance and we could address these issues. So in terms of government and non-government organizations, I'm quite happy with the performance they have. Of course, there's room for improvements, but I also want to be helpful and I also want to urge companies and corporations to also take part in this because now you have the mass public, the mass general public, and also the international community calling out for all of these different conventions. You talked about the weather earlier, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but now we're reaching, we exceeded 1.5 degrees anomaly. So I think it's now a wake-up call saying that right now, now is not the good time. Basically, we are living in an era of 1.5. And because of the increase in temperature of the climate, everything is now in decline. The marine ecosystem will decline. So eventually, let's try our best, especially coming from the private sectors, to try our best towards more sustainable actions and conservation actions. And I'm hopeful that the private sectors will want to also participate in this because I know a lot of friends in private corporation, they want to do good. So let's give them the room, us NGOs and the governments, let's give them the room to participate and to do better with us. So it's more of a collaboration. So overall, I'm very happy with the conservation efforts because we see the effort, we see the conviction, we see the promises, but what we can do is follow through with these. So I'm very hopeful in general.
So, of course, you can catch them on their social media accounts of the Philippine Association on Underwater Activities. And the social media we're flashing there on the screen. Of course, you can follow them, message them if you want to reach out. Thank you very much for joining us today. Mariana Reyes of the Philippine Association on Underwater Activities.
Thank you.